This is just my opinion. Let's talk about it. So, I've been walking down these internet streets. Y'all, I need to stay off these internets. And I kept seeing this clip of Pastor Jamal Bryant talking about uh like New Birth being the largest landowner and the largest black landowner in Atlanta or Georgia, did he say? He might have said Georgia. And how he thought, hey, maybe we should grow cannabis. So I'm like, okay, like sometimes people take things out of context. And the interview, for your information, was on the Cool Soror podcast. Shout out Rashawn Ali. So listen for yourself and don't always take other people's opinion of what was said. Go and find out what he said. So don't take my opinion. Go listen to the interview. So he figured that they could grow cannabis and that maybe, he could bring in the inner city crowd, right? He could get the corner boys to come in and accept Christ because they could get weed there. Okay. So I'm like, okay, like maybe this is out of context. Maybe this was just okay, but it wasn't taken out of context. And I think Jamal Bryant is an excellent orator. That man can preach for real. But there has to be a balance between where the church is a social justice, right? The church is fighting for our civil rights, and our church is just co-signing whatever the current day social justice stuff are. Because if you're out there and you're doing social justice stuff, but not addressing the poverty that's all around you, then that's not where the church. If you're just out there when something goes down, like Black Lives Matters was, that's not true social justice. That's like you jumping in there. Black Lives Matter went in there and turned the conversation. Black Lives Matters wasn't an asset during these times. All the money that Black Lives Matters took in, they kept, and the families got nothing. But they capitalized off the spilled blood from those families. So Black Lives Matters wasn't a movement for Black people. And if you would ever, I've never been to a Black Lives Matter rally, but what I can say is there's a lot of signs. And it went from Black Lives Matters to Black Trans Lives Matters, like everybody else's lives mattered, but it was a Black man laying on the ground. Right? The rally was on the backs of this Black man laying on the ground dead, yet everybody else's life mattered too. So like there were signs everywhere of everybody's lives mattering. So the church didn't rally behind Black Lives Matters because it was quite obvious what they were doing. And we're not standing with that. They also were a spiritual movement. They were an African spirituality kind of movement. And so, yes, it was a movement led by religion. It just wasn't our religion. So, my message to Dr. Bryant is this. You have all that farmland. Food is outrageously expensive. Take that and grow food. Cannabis isn't even legal in Georgia. Come on, do better. If you're really about that social justice, grow food and help the poor people in your area. There's a lot of poor people in the outskirts, in the suburbs, and outlying of Atlanta. That Atlanta metro area, there's like the snooty suburbs, but there's the outlying towns where folks are struggling. There's a lot of people hurting, and some of those snooty suburban folks are struggling too. So it could be a blessing if you would use that land for farmland. It could help so many. So reconsider that. And the way to get those inner city boys is to get in there in the inner cities and go in there and start talking to people. We sit back in our churches and we don't have interaction with our young people. We expect them to come to us. We need to be out there in the community. It's called evangelism. Evangelism, Dr. Bryant, is what gets kids in. Having programs and having things set up especially for them is what brings kids in. So we don't need marijuana farms to bring young people into the church. We need to take the church to the young people. So yeah, that was not a good look. And I admire you, and that was you are an awesome preacher. But that was a bad call and a bad move. And the church needs to step out of social justice and step into what do our people need. God said to care for the poor, the fatherless, and the widow. So that's where we need to be. That's where God says we need to be. That's where his word says we need to be concentrating our efforts. And guess what? That encompasses so many in our cities. So many in the poor spots in our cities. So in order to get those people in, we have to go out to those people. We have to help those people, just like God's word says. And when you put out a hand to help somebody, they come. They come. So rethink that, Dr. Bryant. Let's see some crops being grown out there on all that acreage. And let's feed people. Well, join us again next time when Innisville Ministries International presents Just My Opinion. Until next time, bye.